as it said. Okay, we're just letting everybody in. We'll be starting in another minute. Actually a quick minute. It's 1 o'clock Eastern, so we are going to get started. So good day, everybody. Welcome to another Gimmal education session. My name is Marcia Shields, and I'm from our customer success team. Our goal for these sessions is to enhance your expertise with your Gimmal software. We are recording this session, and you will receive it after the event. We will share that by email, and it's always posted on our Gimmal YouTube channel as well. Jeff Tuish is with me today, and Jeff's going to be your subject matter expert. He's going to be talking about Gimmal Discover for today's session. Today's topic is recommendations and best practices to optimize Gimmal Discover's eDiscovery search. Format will be the same, about 15 to 20 minutes of discussion and demonstration, followed by your questions. So if you do have questions, please post those in the Q&A area of your Zoom, and we'll be sure to answer those after Jeff is done with his session. And Jeff, on that, I think that's all I have. So I'm going to hand things off to you.
Great. Thanks, Marcia. Hello, everybody. Thanks for attending. So as Marcia said, we're going to be talking about eDiscovery and some best practices to do with it. So I want to go through some of the things that are on the eDiscovery search and be able to talk about them to make sure you have a good understanding of what they do for you and why they would be a good idea to enable that particular option. So starting with caching the results. Any of you have seen an eDiscovery search and you've gone through, one of the options on the first panel is, do you want to cache the results? So what does this do for you? What it does is when you're performing an eDiscovery search, if you don't select this option, here's what's happening. So let's say we're going after a Windows file path, and we go out and we produce 10,000 results with our search, and it takes 3 weeks for the paralegals, what have you, to go through that and mark the results with the appropriate labels, and then you issue a collection. That collection is then going to go out to the source data, find the ones that are labeled with a particular label, and isolate those into an on-prem location that is specified during anywhere with Discover. You can do that and make up the list of all the options for that. So what happens is, if you have not cached the results and you found a file out there that has since been deleted, so you found it during the search, but during that 3-week time period of the results being labeled, somebody either modified or deleted that file, now you're not going to have full fidelity when it comes time for the collection. So what cache results does for you is this. When you find the data, it's actually going to store the data on-prem, once again, in a location that you specify. Now, when we issue the collection, we could care less what happens to the source. So if somebody went out to the share and deleted that file, we still have a copy of it in the cache. So that's what cache results does for you. Now, questions come up sometimes. Should I use this for M365? Well, if you're not putting anything on legal hold, data preservation-wise, in 365, my answer would be yes, you want to do that. If you're using legal hold, then this is pretty much superfluous. But once again, it's not going to hurt to do it. It does cost a little extra time because we have to cache the results and actually collect them as we're going. But once again, it gives you that ability to make sure that when you issue a collection, you get 100% of your results back. So that's cache results. Retrieve full text. There's also an option for this. And if you select it, you're going to notice you have the choices of doing it for all results or a random sampling. We offer 10, 50, 100, I believe 3 of the choices. What this can do for you is a couple things. One, if opposing counsel says, hey, how do I know this Discover product can actually search all the text? What it can do is be able to show you the text. I've also been asked many times during demos, hey, so when we look at the results, we can click on something and go open the file on the share, right? It's like, no, you cannot. Because first off, I would imagine security would not want us tunneling in from the outside to be able to open a file on your share. So that would be verboten, obviously. And quite honestly, technically, we don't even try to do it. What the retrieve full text does for you, it brings back all that text and makes it available for you to see. So if you ever use this option, once again, it takes a little bit longer for the search to run to be able to retrieve that text, but it's going to be able to show you the entire text. Now, if you do this for email, you'll actually see the message fully formatted. It's not like we're just giving you raw text. It's going to be fully formatted, just like it was if you open up the message in Outlook. So it does provide that for you. So the retrieve full text, if you need to be able to have full context, especially to label your results, the retrieve full text is a great option. So keep that in mind as you're going through and doing a search. Okay, once again, when you're going through and doing a search, the next to last panel, we ask you, do you want to use the age, the date, or the size, or any data source dependent criteria? We highly recommend that you can do that when possible, of course. Most of the time, it's a date range. However, if you can use any of the things, such as if we're doing email, you'd have the ability to do addresses, or domains to include or exclude. And the reason we offer this is because it's much faster for us to exclude emails or files based upon this criteria than it is to crack them open, look at the content, and then later on for you to say, well, that's a false positive because it's outside my date range. So by all means, use this criteria when you can, because it will expedite the search process, and it will allow you to make sure that when you get your results back and everything you found is within those date ranges, for instance. So take a look at those when you get a chance, check them out, see what they have. You can do some things like when you use age, that's not the most common one, date's the most common. You can just put in a date. If you need to have it go to today's date, you can just put in an after a value and put in the date. If you wanted everything that's before a date, you can just tell us the date and you want it before. So you don't have to give us a range. If it's going to be something that everything from this point forward or back, just use either after or before to do that. Number 4 here, masking. If you're looking for PII, specifically credit cards or social security numbers inside of a search, you can use either one of those formatted expressions here, CC or SSN, and we can mask the data, because the last thing you probably want is to have a social security number stored within Discover. So if you want to go out and you're looking using regular expressions and you're looking for this, such as these values, and you want to mask that data, then you can certainly take advantage of that, because once again, you probably don't want that data in the cloud. We also offer another option when you're searching file shares, and this is only for file shares. If you do come across a need that you need to be able to look at an image file outside of a file share, please let us know, because we introduced this for file shares. That was the one that we felt was most on point with what people were doing. But if you need it for other things like attachments and email, if you have a need for that, please let us know and we can make sure to add it to our roadmap. But what does it do for you? So if we're looking at a TIFF file or an image-based PDF, we can actually go out with Discover and we can scrape the text out of it, if you will, and be able to look at that text saying, do I have a keyword match or a regex match, whatever it might be. So what that does for you then is allow us to look at those files. What we're not doing, we are not converting those files. So if it was a TIFF file when we searched it, it's a TIFF file when we're done. We're not doing OCR conversion. We're just looking, using a product to be able to go out and get the text out of that image to be able to search that. So I want to make sure everybody understands we are not converting it. We're just getting the text out of that file so we can make decisions based upon that text and whether or not we found a keyword or a search expression match. Okay, one of the things I've been asked about a lot is if you ever notice when you go out to create a search off the add menu, you have the ability to do a search or a quick search. So what's a quick search? Quick search is leveraging an index, and that's only available for a specified set of data sources. That is available for Windows File Paths, so file shares. Also available for email, both archives and mailboxes. And I believe the other one is Box allows us to do it as well. What that does, and I'm going to focus on, because this is the most common one, I'm going to focus on email. So if you're going out and performing a keyword search and we're looking at a mailbox, the way that we search and discover is we go a folder at a time and then looking for the messages in that folder and move to the next folder and so on. One of the things that Microsoft does, it maintains an index at the folder level. So we can actually pass along parameters to Microsoft and say, use your index and give us back our results. So here's the for instance. Let's say somebody's inbox has 10,000 messages in it, but only 10 of them actually have the keywords or search expression that you're using. What we'll do is we'll pass that search expression on to Microsoft, and instead of us getting 10,000 and having to look each one individually, it's going to give us the 10 and say, here they are. So it's going to be very binary saying, yes, there is a match. We can also do that with the age, with the date, with the type of message it is. All those can be used with the quick search. So we can take advantage of that. What it does for you, it's faster. So it is exponentially faster, I might add. I actually did a eDiscovery search, and I had about 300,000 items in a folder. I think it took around 50 hours to do it with the search. Keep in mind, that's cracking open and looking at 6,000 messages an hour. So it's going pretty darn fast, but still it took a long time to run. I then did the same thing with a quick search. It took 45 minutes. So it is exponentially faster with the quick search. However, what don't you get out of the quick search? You're going to see all the things that aren't checked in the quick search column. You can't do regex for quick search. You can't get a snippet back. So any of you who have done an eDiscovery search, you're going to notice that you have control of 0 to 1,000 characters for your snippet. What that snippet is doing for you is giving you some context around the search for you to know, is this responsive or non-responsive to my search? That full text I talked about, that's not available with a quick search. You can't put a quick search on schedule, so you can't have it recurring. You can't denist a quick search. And like I said, it's not for all of the data sources. The thing I talked about, the previous panel was talking about the date range, whatever, that's not available. And the search continuity where you say simple, complete, or exhaustive, also not there. So now you're saying, why would I ever use quick search? Because what you can do, you'll notice in the right-hand part of this slide, you could actually do a quick search with an auto collect. So we're going to go out and Microsoft's going to say, hey, here's your 10 matches, and we're going to collect those. And we put them into a PST, for instance. Now we can run a regular search against the PST. And now we only have the true positives that came back from Microsoft. Now we can use a regular search and use all these options that are available here to be able to get the snippet and the full text and all of that. So use a combination of these two searches to be able to help you be able to go out and automate this process, make it faster, but still leverage both sets of things that are good for quick search versus regular search. So I hope that makes sense. Now, if you're doing data governance, I'm going to quick data governance real quick. There's also a fast search and data governance that offers the same thing. So if you see fast search and data governance and quick search and eDiscovery, they're the same thing. We just call them two different names to keep them a little bit separated, but they're providing the exact same functionality in both modules. All right, some tips and tricks. So one of the things that I get asked about is, hey, I created a search and I ran it, I did a collection, and now I want to make a copy of it. Well, you can't. Once you have done a collection on an eDiscovery search, it is going to be, you'll notice you can't edit it, you can't do anything with it besides look at the results. So what I would recommend is you make a search template of something up, make a copy of that, run that for your new search. And now if you ever want to make a copy, you have one. So you never run that search template, which means that it'll never be grayed out. So you can always edit it and it can be used to create a new search. So that's one way to do that. So instead of having to go through all those panels every time and specifying things, you can basically use your previous search as a template. So make that search template up, maybe name it something like do not run or something like that, or this is a template, whatever, just to designate what it is so everybody else in your organization won't go, hey, let me go run that, and now your template's destroyed. So it's a really good idea because you can make a new copy from an existing search as long as a collection hasn't been done. The other thing is big. So Marcia reached out to me yesterday and said, what's the one thing that you would recommend for everybody to do or not do within eDiscovery? And that is always use the test button. So if you're going to notice in your search syntax box to the upper right-hand corner, there's a button that says test. I would highly encourage you to use that. Now, if you're only putting in a single keyword, obviously that's moot. But if you're putting in a search expression and you're using ors and ands, I mean, now we're coming back to mathematical equations with the order of operations, you know, exponents first and then multiplication, division, followed by add and subtract. The same kind of thing with your search expression using parentheses and ands and ors and proximity and excludes and wildcards, all of that. The test button gives you a chance to validate your logic that what you did was correct, because a parenthesis or a set of parentheses in the wrong place can definitely either do one of two things: bring back false positives, or even worse, exclude true positives. So it gives you a chance to go in and test your logic. So you can actually put in, okay, I'm going to make up some text based upon the search expression that I have, and I'm going to see if it's a match. And that gives you some idea of saying, oh, wow, maybe I did this wrong, and look at it. It also validates the syntax. If you do not have a even number of left and right parentheses for awesome, then it's going to allow you to be able to see that, oh, I haven't done that. So definitely use the test button every chance you get. Once again, only when it's typically on a search expression. If you're doing a keyword list, most likely you don't need to do that. If you're stacking up your keywords vertically and either doing a search any or search all, you probably don't need to test. But most people are creating some very fancy search expressions, and just to make sure that they're being validated properly, I would use test. One of the things I've actually seen people do is they will think they know what the syntax is, especially for proximity. That seems to be the one that is used and misused most often. And they put that syntax in there, and away it goes. And the worst thing you want to do, most likely the save button is going to catch you too on some things, but the validating the logic is big. But the worst thing that could happen is you're under a time crunch. You put in your search thinking that your logic is right. You run it. It takes 3 days to run, and it comes back and it doesn't have the results that you need. So it's worth that 5 minutes of doing that test to make sure that you are actually doing what you want to do with that search. So by all means, test on that. I know I'm really harping on that, but it is a very powerful feature, and you can leverage it. Inside of data governance, once again, you also have the ability, anytime you're doing a content search, to be able to test in there. And in data governance, even offers you the ability to use a file's contents to be able to test instead of having to enter in your own test or own test keywords. So it gives you a chance to actually go ahead and test against an existing file, or maybe one that you use for testing. But either way, I highly encourage you to use the test button. That is it for my presentation today on eDiscovery and Gimmal Discover. Please feel free to reach out to me directly if you like. If you have any questions, I've been more than happy to help with that. In addition, if you need help with syntax, because a lot of times I'll be helping people with syntax, like, here's what I want to accomplish. How do I do that? Don't beat your head against the wall because it feels so good when you stop. So if you need some help, please reach out and I'd be happy to do that. Marcia, back to you.
Great job. Good stuff. So we do have a few questions posted. I'll run through with you.
Awesome.
First one is, what would you say makes the most impact to the speed of searches?
Oh, wow, that's open-ended. Okay, so there's going to be a lot of variables for that. One of the things which is actually not even in the search thought, quite honestly, when you're doing that, is make sure the number of threads that you have processing your data sources are a good number, like maybe 5 or so for mailboxes. Anybody that's not familiar with threads, basically what it does is, I'm going to use mailboxes as an example again. We are a multi-threaded environment with the Gimmal Discover, meaning that on one connector or one virtual machine, when you run a search against mailboxes, say there's 100 mailboxes in your environment, and you have 5 listed as the number of threads, that means we can search 5 mailboxes simultaneously. So you add more VMs or connectors. So now if we have 5 doing 5, now we're doing 25 at a time. So that's one thing that can help. The other thing that can also help is going back to one of the panels I showed you with doing the date range and age, what have you. If you can eliminate things that we need to actually open and search for keywords, that is a key as well. So do that. Also, the quick search. If you can leverage that for one of the data sources that offers it, I would highly recommend that and use that combo of quick search and regular search to be able to accomplish that task as well.
Great. Thanks, Jeff. Another question we have is, can I search multiple data sources within the same search?
You can, and it's interesting how you do that. So this is another good thing to understand how it works. So if you say, I want to search Windows and email and OneDrive all at the same time, when you hit save, what you're going to notice is there are now 3 searches available, and each one of them is for one of those 3 data sources. So why we do that is because we have different agents processing the data. And in essence, we're giving each one of the agents a job that is specific to them to go do. So don't freak out if you see, hey, I saved my search and now there's multiple. What happened? It's because you had multiple data sources in there and it runs. So what that allows us to happen is we can process all those data sources in parallel. So simultaneously, we're going out and searching those 3 data sources. Instead of waiting for email to get done before we go to OneDrive, we're doing them all at once.
You have one more. How can you share search results with others?
Oh, good question. Okay, so inside of Discover, there is the ability to create accounts. And inside of that area, that's an administration, if you have that ability. And inside of administration, you can create roles. So you get to nominate the portion of Discover that you want to create roles for, such as eDiscovery. And one of the things is to apply, and I'm going from memory here, to be able to create labels, apply labels. So basically what that means is that as an inside employee, you could create a search that runs, and then you want external counsel to be able to look at the results and collaborate with them. So instead of sending a thumb drive, you could actually create a set of credentials for them inside of Discover, give them the role or create the role that only allows them to look at the results. So they can't run searches, they can't do anything else. All they can do is label the results and view them. That's how you can take advantage of those roles. So those roles are very specific. They get very granular with the different actions that are allowed, such as you can create a search, you can run a search, you can view a search. So all of those are in there. So leverage the ones that make sense and then give those rights only to those people so they'll have a very small focused view of what they can do and discover.
Actually have follow-up to that one. Can you simply export those search results?
You can. And actually, the export is called a collection. So I'm going to give you 2 different chronologies we could go down. So let's say that, remember the cache results? We're going to skip that for right now because I'm going to come back to that. But we run a search. So we're going to do a regular search. We run it. And here is the process. We have to create the search and run the search. Then we have to go into the results and label them with the particular labels that you create, responsive, non-responsive, what have you. Then you create a collection based upon what ones you want to collect on the label value, and then you run the collection. So you have 5 steps that you must do in that. The other side of the coin is that in the search, you have the ability to auto-collect. What this means is that you are so confident with your search terms that you don't need to label the results. You want everything to be collected. So here's what happens. You create the search, you run the search, your work is done. As soon as the search completes, Discover is then going to issue or create an auto collect for you and run it as well. Either way, however we get down to the collection process, you're going to specify a location on-prem where those results are to be collected, and that's where they'll now live. If you're doing SharePoint, OneDrive, file shares, we're just basically doing a robocopy, if you want to call it that. So it's going to be a file as a file. If we're searching a Word document, it's going to be a Word document in the collection. If we're searching email, you'll have the choice of either being in a PST, which is a collective container, or you could do a separate file, EML or MSG, for every result. Regardless, they're all going to be in the location that you specify. So that's how it's not really an export. It's a collection, which sort of looks like an export, but it's called collection in eDiscovery.
Okay, thanks, Jeff. We have a follow-up to when you're talking about provisioning. Question is, are we limited in the number of users we can provision for those purposes that you're
No,
talking
you're
about?
not. I mean, obviously, I wouldn't do thousands or anything, but you can make any number of credentials that you want. We don't care about how many of those you have within Discover. I mean, I would keep it to something that you can manage, but that's it. Your carte blanche with that. You can do whatever you like.
That's it. Good job, Jeff. Thank you. Appreciate
Awesome.
that. So yeah, so that's it, everybody. That's all the questions we have from the group today. Thanks for attending. We hope you enjoyed the session. As a reminder, we'll be sending out the recording, so be on the lookout for that the next day or two. And yes, here's our upcoming education, planned out education session. So August 22nd is Gimmal Records is the very next one. But on September 26th, if you want to come back for a Gimmal Discover education session, we will be talking about report building and advanced options. That said, if you have suggestions for education sessions you would like us to present, please let me know. You can email this to me at marcia.shields@gimmal.com. Or if you have questions in particular about today's session, let me know that as well. We can always hop on a meeting with Jeff or any of the other team members. That's it. Thanks again, everybody. Have a great day, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you, everyone. Take care.